Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Most members of the community are probably familiar, at least in some way, with the name Max Keiser. I'm probably even less familiar than most of the community about this guy. I know he has a show on Russia Today and has been a kind of, I guess, a pumper of sorts of Bitcoin, but also in the precious metal markets. But some members of the community kind of made me aware of this in some of the comments section about this article, this interview that he gave with Daniela Carbone from Kitco News about the China's secret gold-backed cryptocurrency and other conspiratorial aspects about China's gold supply and how they are going to kill the dollar, and it's going to happen between 6 and 9 months from now. It's really kind of an outrageous story from what I have come to perceive as a very outrageous personality. So let's explore with this sort of a little bit. There's really not a whole lot to say about it, but I think we can pretty much shoot it down very quickly here. It's amazing how some people are taken seriously, but I digress. Let's explore! Yes, very interesting indeed. I kind of wish Danielle Carbone would interview. Maybe she's, I know the guy is somewhat famous for some of his claims, and obviously he has been an early adopter of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin did do well. At its high, it was of $20,000 a Bitcoin, and obviously it's continued to, hold the line, so to speak, as of late. But there's still a lot about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general that is really at its infant stage, and right now it's still merely speculative out there. It's going to eventually, the technology behind Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general is the future. There's no question about it. What will be the final, or what will be considered the final technology? How will it be utilized, and how will it mature? It's anyone's guess. Until then, you're essentially investing in these markets or in that area of cryptocurrency at your own risk. And obviously, many people have benefited greatly from it as an investment. But in that way, it's a lot different than gold and silver. The decentralization is pretty much the only thing that makes it anywhere near being the same or similar. Other than that, I think that's where it parts ways. Gold and silver are the ultimate, I think, forms of hedging against an unstable system economically, and that's why we hold them. And by the way, it should be noted that Max Keiser is not anti-gold by any stretch, or anti-silver. He mentions this in the interview. I'll post a link to this article so that you can hear this interview. It's kind of long, and you will, after watching it, if you're not familiar with his style, and by the way, I've not really watched a whole lot of interviews. I kind of stay away from watching what some of these gurus say about precious metals, because I like to form my own opinion and not be influenced. But I think it's safe to say that you can watch this and not be influenced very much, because this guy is I'm half as annoying as this guy is. And so Barbara, not Barbara, but Daniela, if you are looking for somebody to interview, and you're hard up for finding guests, come on by. Or there's other people, even in the YouTube community, that I think would be probably better served and give you a better balance. Because some of the things that he says, and even this interview, Danielle asks him for sources for his claims that China has got 20,000 tons of gold. I think that is the most ridiculous one. And that, they're going to have a new cryptocurrency that's going to be backed by gold, and it's going to kill the dollar. It says China's big move for the 21st century is to pull a trap door on the U.S. by launching a gold-backed cryptocurrency that will devalue the U.S. dollar to zero. That's according to Max Keiser, who is host of the Keiser Report. China's rolling out a cryptocurrency. A lot of the details have not been divulged. I can tell you that the cryptocurrency that China is rolling out will be backed by gold. It's a two-pronged announcement. Number one, China's got 20,000 tons of gold. Number two, we're rolling out a crypto backed by gold, and the dollar is toast, Keiser told KitGo News. He also added that Bitcoin is a superior form of currency to gold. Both fiat money and gold are inferior to Bitcoin for one very simple reason, that with a Bitcoin transaction, it is also simultaneously the settlement. You don't have that with fiat, you don't have that with gold. Well, I tell you what, when I buy gold with my fiat currency, which, by the way, just the very fact that you can do that shows you that fiat currency is not dead, and it has value, especially the dollar these days. Don't write the epitaph for it yet. However, it is in trouble, obviously, and we are definitely flirting with disaster every time we increase that debt and increase the M1 and M2 money supplies. But it is settled. Whenever you have gold in your hand, that's the settlement right there. It speaks for itself. That's what intrinsic value means. There is no intrinsic value at all with Bitcoin. The only thing you can say for Bitcoin that gives it any kind of value is the labor that it takes, or the energy that it takes to produce them. And some are saying that either Russia or China may actually try to mine up or buy up the remaining number of Bitcoin that are out there. Because I think you're limited to 21 million of them. But then you have the forks. May the forks be with you, they say. Bitcoin Cash and these other cryptos that are out there. So it makes you kind of wonder, where the logic is behind it. Again, I believe that we're already starting to see the meshing of blockchain technology, even Hashgraph or other types of technology that is related to a ledger type of system. And I think that's what he's talking about in terms of a settlement. Well, if you have a ledger type of system, they say that it can't be hacked or tracked, that it's encoded, it's cryptic, hence the term cryptocurrency. Well, I tell you, anything digital has the potential to be hacked. Once you verify that gold is real, the physical metal, it can't be hacked. You can melt it down, you can aqua regia the heck out of it, but even if you aqua regia it, which basically dissolves the gold into a liquid, it can be reconstituted. I posted a video about that in terms of the Nobel Peace Prize. But nonetheless, let's take a look here at his claim that can be believable. By the way, make no mistake, he's making a claim here about China that has the potential to be true, but without any substantiation, I don't think it is. China is one of the largest producers of gold. So they could be lying. But most people think that China is not being honest about a lot of things. And obviously, I talked about in a prior video how much they are counterfeit, and they allow counterfeiting to happen. And it has made its way into our markets. It is bled through, so to speak, permeating very much so into the markets. It's a big problem, which is why the United States government is finally cracking down, at least in terms of defensive measures with their bullion products. In 2021, the United States Mint will create 3 levels of security measures to the American Silver and Gold Eagle program. That'll be very interesting to see. But here are the largest gold holdings by the banks around the world here. Beginning in 2010, central banks around the world turned from being net sellers of gold to net buyers. And it's easy to see why, since we saw the high prices in 2011 here. In 2018, official sector activity rose 46% to 536 tons of purchases, the second highest level of demand this century, according to the GFMS Gold Survey. The top 10 central banks with the largest gold reserves have remained mostly unchanged for the last few years. The United States holds the number 1 spot with over 8,000 tons of gold in its vault, nearly as much as the next 3 countries combined. For 7 consecutive years, the Russian central bank has been the largest purchaser of gold, increasing its holdings by 274 tons. In 2018, Kazakhstan has been the second largest buyer and holds the spot number 14 in the world's largest central bank gold holdings. not every central bank is a net buyer. Venezuela has been selling off its gold reserves in order to support its struggling government. In other words, support Maduro, the dictator. However, gross official sector sales declined by 26% last year to its lowest since 2013, indicating central banks are happy to keep the reserves of gold historically viewed as a safe haven asset. And make no mistake, it's recognized by the Bank of International Settlements as a Tier 1 asset. Looky here. China is down the list here at with 3% of reserves at 1,937. Max Keiser is making the claim that China's got 20,000 tons of gold. Insane to make such a claim, but it can be somewhat believable if you believe that they are skirting the numbers and they are hoarding all the gold they produce, or most of the gold they produce, except for the gold pandas they sell. But that much, I don't think so. And by the way, he's asked for sources on it, and he says he's got multiple sources in Asia and in Russia on this. And that's all he says about it. There's no substantiation to any of his claims whatsoever. It's about as wild as his personality is. And here is the global central banks that have been net buyers. One thing that can be true, there has been a great increase, especially last year in 2018. Look at that, 651 metric tons. That's the record holding there. In 2019, demand has remained strong. The January to June period saw the highest levels of central bank purchases since 2010. Poland, believe it or not, was the top buyer, with the reserves growing 77% to 100 tons. As global debt continues to skyrocket, central banks and individual investors alike might want to keep gold in their pockets, as it historically has performed well during times of economic downturn and geopolitical uncertainty. And so that's the very interesting stuff indeed that we've got here with gold. I think it's the moral of the story is that, central banks are holding gold, and cryptocurrency obviously is something that's going to be the future, how it pans out. But I'd be very careful investing your money in anything without fully understanding the risk involved. So there you have it. But very interesting interview. Again, I'll link to this in the video so you can watch this interview. It's quite entertaining. But it's kind of amazing how this guy can be taken seriously. He seems more personality than prowess in terms of his acumen, understanding the markets and what's going on there. But nonetheless, we shall see. Post your thoughts below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude, y'all, for watching, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.